Carolyn Doobie here. What's the play for today? Well, I've got a new gel printing tool. Now, of course, this thing was not meant to be used on a gel plate, but it makes a great pattern. And I don't know if it's my nostalgia with the 80s that drew me to this, but as soon as I saw it, I wanted to try it on a gel press plate. So here's this little puzzle cube. It's absolutely adorable. It looks just like a mini version of a Rubiks Cube, but it's definitely something generic. And so I'm going to see what kind of pattern this creates on the plate. I'm putting a small amount of paint on here because I'm working on a 6x6 gel press plate. So when you work on a smaller plate, you don't need nearly as much paint. I know this is revolutionary to you. Smaller plates take less paint. Once I've got a thin layer of paint on there, then I want to clean off my brayer. And so I'm going to go grab a piece of scrap paper here just to clean off any excess paint. So now let's begin the very technical process of taking this toy and putting it on the plate. Yep, all you do is you put it down and lift up. Now this cube does have 6 sides. It is a cube after all. Now you might notice if you've got a hawk eye that I'm turning the cube each time I do an impression with it. That's not because I feel obligated to use every side of the Rubik's Cube just because. There's actually a reason for it. Because as you're doing this, if whatever you're printing with gets a lot of paint on it, it doesn't pull as much paint off of the plate. So by rotating to another side, basically it kind of gives it time to dry a little bit on the cube itself so that I can just keep right on going. But if I notice a whole bunch is building up on it, then I might do something like that, very technically, kind of rub it, smear it on that scrap piece of paper. And speaking of paper, I'm not going to take this pull with paper. I'm going to take it with a piece of clear plastic. Now this plastic is called Duralar. I've cut a little sheet of it, and I didn't cut it exactly to the size of the plate, but it's close enough. Now if you've never used Duralar, it has a special coating on each side of it so that it'll accept wet media like paints and inks and markers without any kind of beating up. So it's great for taking a pull like this. So let me put a piece of paper behind it so you can see the detail that's in there. But because this is done on clear plastic, that means it's kind of translucent and you can see through it. Now that ghost print, I'm going to take it on paper. So for those of you that are going to use paper, you get an idea of what these prints will look like. So let's do this in some more colors. I'm going to put yellow on here and I'm putting just a small amount. I'm really grateful for those little nozzles that go on top of the Amsterdam paints because that allows me to put small amounts of paint because it's really, really hard for me to do that. And as I'm doing this, I realize that yellow paint, I love yellow. It's a great color. But for this, it is just not going to do what I want. It's not going to give me the look that I want to go on the Duralar. So I'm actually going to stop doing this with the yellow. Now, even though I don't like how this is looking right now, I'm not going to waste any of that paint. I'm going to make a print with it somehow. So what I'm going to do is just put a little bit of pink on top of it. And I was thinking maybe I'd put the cube back into the pink and do it with that. But as I brayered it around, I really didn't like how the color was looking. I was getting a bunch of mixing there, so it was a little bit deeper, darker than what I wanted. So when that happens, I just simply take the pull. Now with this pull, if I love it, great. And if I don't, then that simply means I'll put some more layers on it and let those build up until it gets to the point where I love it. But what it's done is cleaned off that plate, so now I'm ready to give that pink another try. Now the whole reason why I'm able to put small amounts of paint on here is because of those nozzles that are on the paint. And for those of you that have asked, they do come separately from the paint and they fit a couple of the sizes of the Amsterdam paints, but not the really, really big jumbo tube of Amsterdam. But what those little caps do allow me to do is control the amount of paint I'm putting on more so than if I had the regular lid. Now I did a fantastic job of putting a really thin layer of paint here on the plate. And guess what? I don't like it when it's this thin. It was actually a little too thin for me. And so this is really where personal preference comes into it. Some people love super light, thin layers of paint like this. And some people like a whole lot more. The great part about this is you get to do the printing in whichever way you like the most. One of the things I really love about gel printing are the ghost prints, that second grungy, imperfect print. And here, I'm not going to get one. I am only going to get one pull off of this and there is going to be no ghost print. Now I'm going to love the first print. Don't get me wrong, it's a great print. But the reason why I'm not going to get a ghost print is because I had such a thin layer of paint on there. So if I want a ghost print, I need to use a little bit more paint than I did. So since I used too little paint for my taste last time, this time I'm going to use a little bit more, but I'm actually going to have just a hair too much paint on there. As I'm spreading this wonderful purple on here, I realize it's just a little too much paint. So that's where a brayer is so handy. I'm just going to brayer some of it off onto that scrap paper. And if you think I'm falling in love with that scrap paper, you are absolutely correct. That is just a little cleanup treasure. So let's say you don't have one of these generic little puzzle cubes, little generic Rubiks Cubes sitting around for you to play with. Where can you find one? Well, my daughter found these at Walmart and I pretty much said, oh, can I have one of these? She said they ran about $2 for 6 of them. They're a kid's little toy. It might be in the party section or sometimes during the holidays, they'll have these little toys as sort of stocking stuffers or candy replacements during Easter, Halloween, that kind of thing. And of course, while you're looking for one of these, keep your eye out for other great printing tools because toys make fantastic tools. Now, as much as I was trying not to do a super thin layer of paint this time, yep, I did another thin one. And so that means I'm just going to get one pull with this. Now, granted, I really, really like this one pull, but there really isn't much there for a ghost pull. Now, once you've got these done, you've got them on that Duralar, you can see through them. What can you do with them? Well, there's a ton of stuff that you can do with it because you can use it in any mixed media application, art journaling, cards, scrapbooking, collage, I mean, all sorts of things. But what I'm going to do here is use it to make a colorful Christmas ornament. What I've got are one of the flat glass Christmas ornaments, and I'm just putting it on the shiny side of the Duralar, the side where I don't have the paint. And I'm just using a pen to trace around the shape of the ornament. That'll tell me the size that I need to cut out. Now, when you trace around something, the line that you have is bigger than what will fit inside. So as I'm trimming this, I'm actually trimming on the inside of the circle. And that way it's going to be smaller than the outside and will hopefully fit nicely on the inside. But I'm hand cutting this, and so this is not a mathematically perfect circle. This is a very wonky circle. So I'm going to kind of trim it up here and there, making it as roundish as I can. And of course, if you've got a die cutting machine, if you can punch out a circle the exact size that you need, go for it. I didn't have one that size, so I'm going to have to do this old school with scissors. In order to get it to fit inside the ornament, I'm going to roll it up fairly tightly. The Duralar can take it and it's not going to stay curled up. As soon as I get it into that ornament, it is going to pop back open. Now, it didn't pop open completely. That's where something handy like, say, the end of a paintbrush will help you kind of get in there. And if that doesn't work, then there are always some pliers. And all I'm doing is grabbing the plastic and just giving a little bit of tug so that it moves around. Now I can get that paintbrush in there to push it nice and flat, and it just pops right back open. Now, invariably, my circle isn't perfectly round, and the part of it that's the flattest or the least round, I wiggle over to the top opening. Now, should you feel like you want to take it out and do some trimming and cutting on it, you absolutely can yank it out with those pliers as well. But this one fits well enough for me, so I'm going to put the top on it, and now what I've got is a colorful ornament that's got this wonderful bit of pattern on it, but it's also translucent, so when the lights twinkle on the tree, you'll be able to see those through the ornament. Well, thanks so much for joining me for today's play. If you've been enjoying this video, I'd so appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more ways to use a gel press plate, hit that subscribe button. That way you'll know as soon as Gel Press has a new video out. Thanks so much for letting me be a part of your colorful journey.